I mean, not directional control, but orientation. So I'm glad that I flew this on a day like this. I'm glad that I waited, because this would have been impossible to see on one of the gloomier days. But it looks like this battery is performing a lot better than the other battery. That gives it some more points. Do some low pass action. Alright guys, I am finally here with the SR-71 Blackbird. Now if you're wondering why I am in different clothes than when I did the intro, was because I was hoping to fly this on the same day I recorded that intro. However, it was really overcast and I wanted this video to look really nice. But unfortunately, every week thereafter, it was very gloomy. It looked very sad in the sky. So for 3 weeks, this Blackbird had to just sit on the plane stand. But now we got lucky. Very sunny, beautiful day out here. So I hope she'll fly well, and I hope that I'll fly well. So I have full control. Looks like my safe is working. Actually, I'm just gonna check one more time. Make sure it's working correctly. So left, right, up, down. Perfect. I am so nervous for this flight. I am a bit unfortunate to be late to the party to make a video on this, but here we go. Okay, hope everything goes well on this flight. Taking off. Oh man, she's in the air. Took a lot of runway. Now this is on safe select. You can see that she's kind of shaky. That's because there is a slight breeze. Looks like I'm gonna need to maintain full throttle the whole time. Alright, I'm gonna go a bit higher and take her out of safe. Here we go. Can already tell she's gonna be a sucker to fly. My rates with my safe select enabled, very limited. And this is full throttle, so she's not very fast. Now you can see I bleed so much speed when I turn. So you need to turn very wide. You can't do a short turn, or you're probably gonna fall out of the sky. See if I can do a roll. Oh yeah. I'd never think I would be able to fly an SR-71. Another roll. I'm gonna wait for this pilot to take off and then I'm gonna land. Clear. You can see I'm kind of just staying in this high alpha position. Landing. All right. This is the make or break. Oh. Something happens. Alright guys, so that was my flight on the E-Flite SR-71 Blackbird, and I mean, she flies. That was with a 4-cell 2200 mAh 50C discharge rate battery, and she bleeds a lot of speed when you turn. So, well, when you're turning, I mean, when you're doing a straightaway, she is not very fast, but she does have speed. But when you turn, you're gonna bleed a lot of speed and you're gonna be in a high alpha most of the flight. Now, what you saw in my landing there is what I most anticipated. There's a lot of cracks on our runway, and that meant that the landing gear came off of the thing. And I'm actually missing both landing gear. I need to go back. I didn't see that the other landing gear also came off, so I'll have to go back on the runway. But yeah, you're not gonna get the most amount of performance out of this thing. Like you saw, I was kind of struggling to get my speed, and I was only really able to do rolls. I couldn't even bother trying to do a maneuver like a loop because it would just stall out. So I'm gonna go for a second flight after these pilots land, and we'll do a second opinion.
Awesome, Maiden John. Congratulations, buddy.
Alright guys, I have the Blackbird plugged in once again on the same type of battery, Spectrum 4S 2200 mAh battery pack with a 50C discharge rate. Now you can see everything is going the right way. I also just wanted to show you the underside of what happened after that landing. It would have been a really nice flight, but unfortunately, because it hit the runway, it got this little dent over here and these skid marks on the engines here. So you're not gonna see the underside, but when you do, it's just mildly infuriating. So yeah, luckily there was no other damage done to the plane. So this time I'm gonna take off without safe. It was already pretty balanced. Like no trims were needed. Okay, taking off. Looks like I get the field to myself this time. Such a beauty. So this is full throttle. Then when you turn, turn again. Actually, this battery feels better than the other one. Maybe my other battery was cycled a bit more, because this feels a lot nicer. I'm only gonna do inverted on straightaways because once you turn, you lose like almost complete directional control. I mean, not directional control, but orientation. So I'm glad that I flew this on a day like this. I'm glad that I waited, because this would have been impossible to see on one of the gloomier days. But it looks like this battery is performing a lot better than the other battery. That gives it some more points. Do some low pass action. More low pass. I'm gonna try and angle it towards you so you can see more of the plane. Hold on, one more time. Low pass. Coming now. Oh, come on. Yeah, like that. Alright. I do think I am gonna land it now though. Yeah, that's already my 3-minute timer. Alright, landing! Okay. Yes. She's so easy to land. Now the challenge is not get shredded into pieces by the zero on the runway. Oops. Forgot that was there. One moment. Sorry. Okay. So that was my second flight on the E-Flite SR-71, and that actually flew a lot better than the first flight. Now, I think it was the battery. The battery felt a lot more powerful than on this flight than the first flight. I don't know if something was wrong with the first battery, but yeah, that phenomenon I had where I turned and bled a lot of speed was basically not there anymore. It was still kind of there, but that's simply because of the shape of this plane. It's obviously gonna bleed a lot of speed when you're in a high bank angle. But yeah, I was definitely a lot more comfortable with it now that I knew how she felt. I did not want to do my normal inverted circles on this thing because, like I mentioned during my flight, even on a sunny day like this, once you start your turn, you basically lose all orientation of it until you go back on the straightaway. So I was attempting to try and do my inverted flight on the runway over here, but I was definitely not comfortable doing it over the trees. But yeah, she's definitely not going to go Mach 3.3 like the real SR-71. This is probably closer to like 80 miles per hour, maybe even slower, I'm not sure, but she's a pretty cool airplane. She's kind of like the F-14, I will admit, because it's using the same power system, the 40 mil EDFs, and you're kind of getting the same amount of speed, and it's also eating up the same amount of battery as the F-14. But to be honest, I really like what E-Flite's trying to do here, making more unique designs. I never thought I would be able to fly an SR-71, but E-Flite did make that possible. Just wish it flew a little better, but you know, can't ask for everything. So, yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So, thanks for tuning in to John's RC. And if you're new to this channel, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Bye guys, I'll see you in the next one.
Awesome flight, John. Congratulations again, buddy.
Hey guys, John here, and welcome back to John's RC. And this is the brand new E-Flite SR-71 Blackbird. And this is a very, very recent release, and I am so excited to show you guys this plane. So this is a 40mm EDF jet. It looks like E-Flite is starting to mess with like the sub-micro class of airplanes. First we saw the E-Flite F-14 Tomcat, and now we have the SR-71. And this thing is beautiful. I would have never expected to see the SR-71 in this size of an RC airplane. So yeah, it came as a bind and fly package. So that means you need to supply yourself with your own transmitter, flight battery, and flight battery charger. So I'm going to be using my Spectrum NX10 to control the airplane, and for battery, the recommended battery is a 4S 2200 mAh battery pack with a 30C discharge rate, but with our batteries in here, it's a 4S 2200 with a 50C discharge rate. They're both from Spectrum, and the reason I'm using a 50C battery is because on the F-14, I used a 30C battery for my maiden flight, and I really didn't like it. There was some power issues. But I did have a better flight experience with the new 50C batteries, so I'm going to be using a 50C this time. So yeah, you can see here on the bottom, this is where sorry, let me just disable save for a second. So this is where the battery goes. It is quite a hassle to open it, so I'm just going to show you from here. It is quite a hassle to open it without nails, but yeah, over here is where all the electronics go, and if I can open it here, you have this quite odd setup, and when I first looked at this, I had no idea what was going on. But you can see here there is a long throw linear servo right here that controls the elevator, and it looks like all of the servos are connected to the board, and that's going to control the servos, because you can see there's one servo here, and then there's two outer servos here. Now, I was, to be honest, quite disappointed to see that they used these micro type servos for this airplane. I mean, I know it is quite small, however, even with these little servo covers, there is some dirt bound to get in there, and that is going to shorten the integrity of the servo if dirt does get in there, and then you have to open it up and clean it. But yeah, so if you are going to be flying this without the landing gears attached, and you're going to be flying it over grass, just know at some point you're probably going to get dirt in here. So I would have really preferred to have the fully sized case servos, but I mean, they work for now, so we'll see. Maybe I'm just completely wrong. Now, these are two twin 6800 kV brushless outrunner motors on the little turbines on the plane, and they are connected to a 2-in-1 receiver board for the ESC and the ESC for the little flight controller. And I also didn't really like that. I like it on a UMX. I know that the UMXs that E-Flite has out, they all use the 2-in-1 receiver board, but on a plane a little bit larger than a UMX, I was super surprised to see it, and it's going to make it just a little bit more difficult to get parts for it, because you're going to, instead of having the ESC burnout, you're going to have to buy a whole new flight controller for it. So yeah, that's just my take on the electronics, but maybe they're just really good electronics. So this thing has a length of 955 millimeters and has a wingspan of 505 millimeters. And with the battery installed, it's going to have a flying weight of 834 grams. And I mean, it is pretty light. I thought it was going to be a little bit heavier, but I will give it to E-Flite. This is a pretty light model, and it's going to be super easy to hand launch. So E-Flite has a license with Lockheed Martin to produce this airplane as closely possible to the real thing that they could. So you can see over here they have these fully scale wing panels that go all across, and it looks absolutely beautiful. You have this little canopy over here, and I was kind of hoping for a clear canopy, but you can't really have everything. Kind of reminds me of like the Flex Innovations, so the smaller Mamba, the 10E, the way they painted the canopy. But yeah, It's a super scale model, but because they have a license with Lockheed Martin, that means that the license is going to expire over time and it's going to be discontinued a little shorter than the other models that E-Flite has put out. We've seen this with the UMX Cessna 182, the UMX Cessna Citation Longitude. So if you want to get this, you like the way this SR-71 looks, you're probably going to want to get it now because you don't know when this is going to discontinue. So the flight controller on this bird does include safe and AS3X. So if I punch the throttle a little bit, you can see the safe will turn on, and you can see when I'm turning the airplane left, it will compensate for right aileron. Same thing if I go left. And if I disable the safe, if I wiggle it around, you can still see the AS3X is still working, and that's just going to counteract the wind just a little bit. So there is some assembly to this model, not a lot. The fuselage comes complete, but you do need to put on the vertical stabilizers, the landing gear, and the little nose cone. But I did encounter a problem, which is the hardest part of the build. This vertical stabilizer went in perfectly fine. This one did not like me. I found that the little peg on the vertical stabilizer, I think if I take this one off, oh, it's already in there. There's a little peg on the vertical stabilizer that goes into a hole on this part of the fuselage, but the hole on this part of the fuselage was way too big for the peg, so it would not friction fit on just like this one. So I had to put on some CA glue, and I actually had to CA it again. I put 2 layers of CA, it came off, so this is the 3rd layer. Hopefully it doesn't come off in flight, but yeah, it's pretty in there now. So you just had to friction fit this on. You had, oh yeah, I forgot to mention, it comes with a second set of vertical stabilizers. These are painted red, and these are purely for visibility purposes. They aren't scale, but I mean, if you're in like a foggy or gloomy day, it's gonna probably be your best bet. I'm not gonna be putting them on. Oh, well, I can't anyway because this is CA'd on. So yeah. The landing gears go on just like a UMX would, in the sense that they kind of just click into the little things, you know, just like a UMX would. But yeah, that's just a very simple part. Same thing for the landing gear, it kind of just goes into here. And it does have, there is no moving rudder on the vertical stabilizer, but you do see that there is a steerable nose wheel, so that is quite nice. Now, one of the last things I want to mention is I really like the way they designed the front of the nose here. Normally on the EDFs that we've seen from E-Flite, they use a very brittle material for the nose, for like the fueling needle. I'm pretty sure it's what it is. But you can see here, this one is actually flexible, and that's really nice because normally on an EDF we take off the nose cone for transportation purposes, just in case we like jam it into like a wall or something, it will just snap in half. But this is actually very durable, so I really like that from E-Flite. Now, the last thing I want to mention is the SR-71 in real life. This thing was an absolute beast. It's the fastest manned aircraft that we've ever seen at a speed of Mach 3.3, which is incredibly impressive. This thing could outrun missiles. There was a story of the pilot that flew into another airport and landed before he took off because of time zones. It was just an absolutely amazing story, just to show how fast this bird is. So definitely not going to be as fast in real life, this little UMX thing, but let's go and fly her.